Hello and welcome back to Surf Progression Techniques. Thank you for joining me. I'm your host, Chapin Cruder. I hope you enjoyed the first video I sent with the 3 key techniques to popping up that Kelly Slater uses. And now today we're going to be going over the 4 rookie mistakes frequently made by intermediate surfers. And these are mistakes I see all the time down here at my Surf Progression retreats in Nicaragua, and I wanted to bring it to the forefront of the conversation in order to help you avoid making these rookie mistakes, because we all have these opportunities put before us, and if we're not really focused and knowing what we're looking for or knowing what we're doing, we're definitely going to make them. It's natural, but that's why I'm here. I'm here to try to identify these mistakes that we all kind of make naturally in order for you to avoid them or stop doing them in order for you to progress faster. So for this video, we're going to be going over the rookie mistake that most people make when they go out and buy a new surfboard, as well as the rookie mistake that most people make when they pop up when they're surfing. Another one, and this is a big one, a big rookie mistake that everyone seems to be making when they're trying to do a turn on their surfboard. And then finally, also related to turns, another rookie mistake that will be put together nicely when you start to understand what it means to really prepare for a turn and how to execute a turn, body mechanic wise, foot placement wise, that we're going to go into in just a second to help you then execute the type of turns that you want. So, rookie mistake number 1, buying a brand new board for 1 or 2 reasons. And again, I see this all the time. It always seems that someone's buying a brand new board, going to the shop and picking out something for 1 or 2 reasons. And reason number 1 is this: I want a board I can turn easier on. And the thing with that is that you can turn any board you want, whether it's a longboard, a fun shape, a mini mow, or whatever. You can turn it. Now, mine always add up to how you see turns being done in your mind, but technically you can turn any board you want, and there's tons of evidence out there for that. So if you're not turning the board that you're on now, then it's not the board. It's probably something that you're doing. Now, granted, you might be turning it and not happy with the way it's turning. Again, that's fine, but it's still probably not 100% the shape of the board that is holding you back from doing the type of turns that you want. It might be. I mean, you might have progressed to a point where you've just grown out of that board, and yeah, you do need to drop down. But if you're not doing the type of turns that you want with your surfboard, before you go out and buy that brand new board that's going to cost you whatever, $800 off the rack at your favorite surf shop, think about it, because there's other ways that you can test the board that you're on in order to see if, 1, you can turn it, or 2, if you are doing the type of turns you want to their full capacity. And the second reason people go out and buy a brand new surfboard at the shop is because they can't duck dive the board that they're on. So they want to go out there and buy a board that they can duck dive. And I see this all the time, and it's not a great reason to go out there and buy a brand new board that's going to cost you $800. There are other ways to get out into the lineup with your big board that you can utilize before you go out and buy a brand new surfboard. So these are the 2 big rookie mistakes I see when people come to my surf progression retreats. And that is, I want to buy a board I can turn easier, so they go buy a brand new whatever, Lost, Hypto, Crypto, whatever it may be, when they have been riding for the last 5 years, an 8.0 mini mow or a fun shape of some kind that's got a lot of foam in it, a lot of volume. And then the other reason is, I can't duck dive this bigger board. It's super frustrating because I can't get out to the lineup, and when I do, I'm exhausted. So I'm going to go out and get a super small board, and unfortunately, you're going to find yourself remaining still equally as frustrated because, yeah, you might be able to duck dive it, but now you're not catching waves anymore. You're not popping up as easily, and you're not riding waves in a way that I think you want to be riding waves when you're on that high performance of a surfboard. So these are 2 rookie mistakes I hope you will avoid, and we'll move forward into the next slide, and I'll explain to you how to avoid them. So the best way to avoid these mistakes is to first go out and buy used equipment if you are wanting to test something new. Like, you can't duck dive your board. Well, instead of going buy that brand new board, go out and buy something used. You're going to save a lot of money, and then you're going to be able to resell that used board for more or less what you bought it for. Where if you go out and buy a brand new board and it doesn't meet the expectations that you had of it, well, then you're going to have to take a nice little loss on that thing, because odds are it's got quite a few pressure dings in it at this point, or whatever it may be. So stick to buying used equipment to lower that cost of the turnover in boards that you're going to have as you start to progress a lot faster. So buy used equipment. That's number one. Number two would be renting equipment. Now this isn't as easy because a lot of surf shops and places that you want to get your boards at don't really allow you to test ride your equipment, but some shops are jumping on board with this concept. So you can go to a shop and they might have, say, a used Tiptoe Crypto in there that they do rent out. And so say you've been riding a little mini Mao or something like that 8-foot board, or a really big short board, and you want to drop down for one of those two reasons, well, maybe they'll let you rent it and you can go test your theory out and see what's really going on, rather than, again, buying that brand new board, which is going to be super expensive and I don't think is going to meet the expectations that you have. Number three, join a board club. And this is, again, that's something new that I was just introduced to and isn't everywhere, but there are spots around the world that have board clubs, which is essentially a place that you pay a monthly membership to, and you can have access to multiple different types of boards, shapes, and fins that then you can go out and experiment with. I think it's a really great concept. I don't know how successful it will be, if it will take off, but I think from a progression perspective and you getting to test equipment without having to spend an arm and a leg on that brand new board, it's a really good opportunity for a lot of you out there to try to find one in your area and maybe join for a month or two to see if you can then test, the boards that you might want to try for either duck dive reasons or maneuver reasons or turning reasons. And number four, borrowing equipment. Now this is always a touchy subject, but it's a good way to test the equipment of somebody else that you might admire because you feel that they duck dive better than you, they do better turns than you, and you feel it's the board. It's definitely the board that's preventing you from doing the turns that you want or duck diving the waves in the way that you want. So borrowing equipment always comes with that little caveat of, if you break it, you buy it. So please be respectful to your friend's equipment. And if you break it, you buy it. If you ding it, you pay to have it fixed, or whatever it may be. But that's another way that you can then test your theories about your equipment, your level of surfing, is going out and borrowing somebody else. So don't buy brand new equipment right off the bat. Test your board that you're on. Test your theories in other way by borrowing, renting, joining a board club, buying used equipment. These are ways that you can avoid that rookie mistake of buying brand new boards and then finding yourself equally as frustrated because it hasn't met the expectations of doing better turns or duck diving a lot easier. Now, rookie mistake number 2 is don't drop your eyes and head when you pop up. Now, going back to the last video that we discussed, this was a very big point within the video, which is don't drop your eyes and head when you pop up, because it shifts all your weight too far forward on the surfboard 90% of the time. Some of you have the opposite effect happen where you pop up and your feet are too close together towards the back. But again, most of it is because you drop your head at the last second. And the way to remedy that is to keep your eyes focused forward at least 30 feet or 10 meters down the line. This is super important, folks, because when you pop up, your pop-up sets up 99% of your stance. And when you pop up, you want to pop up consistently with the right technique in order for you to land appropriately on your surfboard to then get up and go. Now, ideally, we want to pop up in the perfect place every time, but that's unrealistic. Not even the best pros in the world pop up in the perfect spot every single time they pop up. Some do, and you will see it out there. But for us, our goal is to always be popping up in the closest place to the perfect spot we can, and then only having to adjust minimally. And so the pop-up process, by keeping those eyes focused in the direction you want to go, is going to really help you from dropping your head, which then is going to then shift all your weight too far forward on the surfboard. So you really need to, again, when you pop up, keep your eyes focused at least 30 feet down the line in front of you, or 10 meters, wherever you may be coming from. Down the line, do not drop your focus from that point down the line as you're popping up. That's going to really nicely bring your body up under you, and your feet are going to start landing consistently more in the correct spot on the surfboard every time you pop up. Now, rookie mistake number 3, not getting your back foot far enough back on the surfboard for turns. And this kind of goes back to the whole equipment thing where it's like, I have this board I can't turn, and I'm really frustrated, so I'm going to go out and buy a brand new board. Well, like I said earlier, you can turn any type of board. I mean, there's countless longboarders out there who have giant boards who are doing some of the sickest turns off the lips, whatever you want to, cutbacks, whatever, because again, they get their foot far enough back on that surfboard, which gives them maximum control over that surfboard in order to maneuver that surfboard. So your turns are all being generated from that back foot being back far enough on that surfboard. And your job is, before you want to make a turn, is to get that foot far enough back so you can gain maximum control over that surfboard. So if you're frustrated right now with your turns, you're saying, I can't do turns consistently. I'm super frustrated. I don't know what it is. Well, it's probably not the board. It's probably you're not getting your foot far enough back on that surfboard, which then once you do, you're going to feel a huge amount of control over the surfboard and turns are going to come a lot easier for you. So it's really important. Again, if you want to do a turn, before you do that turn, you need to set up. So that means you need to note where your feet are, maybe a few waves before. Say, take 5 waves, pop up, look down at your feet, and take a mental note of where your feet are consistently landing on that surfboard every time you pop up. And after that 5th wave, your next wave, pop up, be very conscious of getting that back foot far enough back on that tail pad to then go down the line and do a turn. And you'll notice that if you do study professional footage, a lot of surfers have a different point in which they maneuver their back foot far back on that surfboard to do a type of turn or maneuver. But right now, where you're at as an intermediate surfer, just get a feel for it. Get a good idea of what it feels like to get that back foot as far back on the surfboard as you can to then go into a turn, top turn, cutback, whatever it may be. You're going to feel a huge difference in that and your equipment if you just get your back foot farther back on the surfboard. But now you might be thinking, Chapin, I get it. I don't get my foot far enough back on that surfboard. How do I do that? Well, you're going to need to step or walk it back. So stepping or walking back your back foot can happen in a few different ways. And as I just noted, different surfers do it at different points during their transition into a bottom turn, top turn, or they spot a section down the line, and then they make that initial step back to prepare for whatever turn or maneuver they have spotted the section that they're going to do it on. And so, for example, right here, you got Kelly Slater. He's about to go into a cutback right there. He lifts his back foot, steps it back, and then he starts his cutback. And we'll watch it again so you get an idea of, again, if you really pay close attention to your favorite professional athletes, they all actually do this type of back foot movement more or less at similar times, depending on the type of top turn they're doing or maneuver that they're doing. So for cutbacks, for example, yeah, you're going to probably see that section coming and step back just like he did. Or, as you become more advanced, you're going to be able to move your back foot around on the surfboard more, making it a lot easier to make last minute adjustments like Kelly's doing right here when he lifts his back foot up in order to go in this cutback. But that takes time. So again, if you see a type of turn or maneuver that you want to do down the line, there's nothing wrong with getting that back foot far enough back on the board by either stepping it or, like in this example, walking it back. And it's going to be up to you what your comfort level is in maneuvering that foot around on the back tail pad of the board. But, walking it back like that in order to get it farther back to get maximum control over that surfboard, and then walking it back up in order to generate speed and get your board back up on that nice plane. It's going to really depend on you and your comfort level. So it's, again, really important, though. If you want to start doing the type of turns that you imagine yourself doing, you're going to have to become very comfortable with getting that back foot far enough back on your tail of your surfboard in order to gain maximum control over your surfboard to do that type of turn or maneuver. Now moving on to our final rookie mistake number 4, and that is don't let your lead arm drift in front of your body. And I have a very personal relationship with this last rookie mistake. And this is actually me. In 2005. I had been surfing, quite a few years at this point, but I was still very stuck. I had been stuck for a lot of years, a lot of frustrating years with this one thing. And it took me a long time to figure it out. But once I did, it changed my whole surfing approach. And the thing that I was struggling with most was this, which is I let my lead arm drift in front of my body throughout my bottom turn, as you can see in the pictures above, and then I let it continue to drift across my body throughout my top turn, as you can see throughout these photos on the bottom. And this created so much frustration for me because I would blow 90% of my top turns. I would dig a rail. I'd blow my fins in a weird way and lose balance. There was just so much frustration attached to this little thing that I could have remedied if somebody would have told me about it, but didn't have anybody around to really like break it down for me. And so, yeah, I spent close to 20 years stuck on this. I'd say 18 solid years of surfing a fair amount and then just always blowing my top turns. And I never figured it out until one day I took matters into my own hands and I started studying all of the professional footage from the videos that I love the most. And I would turn off the sound and I would just focus on their top turns and I would try to analyze their body mechanics and what they were doing. And it just started to become clear slowly that nobody was letting their lead arm drift in front of them. And it was really interesting. And you can see that right here. By keeping your lead arm on the outside of your lead leg throughout your bottom turn, you can really then prepare for your top turn with more of an open body. And this is an old school picture of Tom Curran, from, I would say, late 80s, maybe early 90s. And he's got the exact same bottom turn technique that Mick Fanning does, a more contemporary new school surfer. And their lead arm has not crossed in front of their body at all. It remains on the outside of their lead leg throughout the whole bottom turn process. And now contrast this with a few more of the shots of myself as I became more aware of this and more comfortable. And then sure enough, I started pulling turns, top turns that I was way more proud of, a lot easier. Cutbacks became way easier as I started really keeping that lead arm on the outside of my lead leg and opening up my shoulder and palm. And you can really see that by keeping that lead arm on the outside of your lead leg throughout your bottom turn and top turn process, it's going to make a huge difference in success rate of completing top turns. So with that said, I just want to thank you again for joining Surf Progression Techniques, me, your host, Chapin Cruder. For these tips, I hope really help you avoid, these 4 rookie mistakes that I think are holding a lot of intermediate surfers back and keeping them stuck and frustrated like I was, for 18 years. It's really one of those things that I've really focused on trying to understand and give to you in a way that's going to help you progress a lot faster so you don't stay stuck as long as I did. So if you're frustrated with your equipment because you're not able to turn or duck dive, don't run out and buy a brand new board. There's other ways that you can test your equipment. There's other ways that you can use different people's equipment or different types of equipment than rushing out and spending that kind of money on something that, yes, the professionals use in the most incredible ways. Watching Craig Anderson surf his Hypto Crypto makes me want to go out and buy one. I didn't, but I've gotten to ride a bunch of them because friends have them. I've even rented a few, and they're amazing boards. They work incredibly. I love them, but I still don't own one. And I think that it's really important that you don't just rush out and spend that kind of premium dollar when there's other ways that you can test your equipment. And then when it comes to popping up, please don't drop your eyes. Don't drop your head and eyes. Keep your eyes focused at least 30 feet, 10 meters down the line every time you pop up from this point forward. It's going to make such a huge difference in your pop-up and your stance, because remember, your pop-up sets up 99% of your stance. So it's really important that you start getting these pop-ups more consistent in order to then progress in the direction that you want, doing the type of turns and maneuvers that you want to do. And then speaking of turns, we really want to get our back foot far enough back on that surfboard in order to do the type of top turns that we want. It's going to make a huge difference because it's going to give you maximum control over that surfboard. You're going to feel way more in control of that surfboard if you just start getting that foot farther back on that surfboard before you attempt a turn. We saw Kelly Slater. He's able to move his foot at will so he can get it back right before he decides to do a top turn, a cutback, an air, whatever it may be. At the intermediate level, you might not be that nimble, so it's going to be important that maybe you spot that cutback section a little ways down the way. After you pop up, get that back foot back as far as it can. Be conscious of it, get it back there, and then work your way down the line and try to do that cutback that you were hoping to do. You're going to notice a huge difference when you start getting that back foot back, farther back on the surfboard. And then finally, don't stay stuck like I did for 20 years, letting that lead arm drift in front of you throughout your bottom turn and top turn process. If you want to start nailing top turns and not digging a rail and really having that beautiful kind of flow and fan that you see all the more advanced professional surfers utilizing, don't let that lead arm drift in front of you and your body throughout the bottom turn and top turn process. Go ahead, watch any professional footage. Turn off the sound and just focus on their body mechanics throughout every top turn they do. With one exception, you will see people let their lead arm drift across in front of them for layback snaps. And there's a reason for that we won't go into here. But if you want to do those nice critical top turns or those big arcing round top turns, then don't let your lead arm drift in front of you. It's going to make a huge difference in your progression, in your top turns. And with that said, thank you so much for being with me. I really appreciate you coming and listening and hopefully taking these little words of wisdom with you to help you progress a lot faster. If you feel like it has been helpful to you, please share it with somebody that you think it might help, because there's a lot of us out there who've been stuck for a long time, and there's no reason to stay stuck when you have these little things that you can take and apply to your own surfing that's going to help you see progress a lot faster. Looking forward to seeing you in the next video, and I'll talk to you soon.